Welcome to another session of how to get the most value from your existing software systems. I'm JP Lessard. Be sure to check out the other videos in this series with myself and my colleague John Horner. Today I'm going to be talking about another way that you can improve your current software, specifically through smart upgrades. So when I talk about upgrades, I want to differentiate between modernization, it is different than upgrading, so check out that video, and also updates. So updates, I would say, are more minor. I'm going to use an analogy of a steak, and I'll pull it back into software, I promise. So for a steak, let's say an update would be a minor version, and that's receiving your cooked steak. I'm expecting that. And in software, a minor version would be like fixes, bug fixes, some minor feature enhancements or those types of things. It's usually free or included as part of your maintenance plan. And those are those minor version updates. So it'd be like version 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, that kind of thing. An upgrade is something that is more significant. So I want to upgrade to the shrimp and the potatoes with my steak. Great. So usually there's a cost associated with that. I want to go from version 10 to version 11 or 12 or whatever that is. And usually there's new features that are involved in a new version or a major upgrade. That's mostly what we're going to be talking about today. I would highly encourage you to keep your software up to date with those updates, with those minor version releases, because that's going to keep you safe. It's going to keep you up to date and keep the support current and all of those things. Upgrades, you want to consider whether it's worth doing or not. So that's what we'll talk about today. So to upgrade or not to upgrade, that is the question, at least for this video. And when I see these things, I think to myself, well, one, if I hit that button, is something major going to break? Or maybe there's some awesome new feature that I'm going to be able to take advantage of. Or is it all of a sudden going to bring me into the fast lane with my software? Or is this going to slow me down? You've all experienced that with different updates and upgrades that you've done in the past. So I'm going to help you try to figure out, should you go ahead and click that button or initiate that upgrade process? So what are some things you want to think about? Number one, risk mitigation. I would say most of this can be handled through keeping your software up to date. So those minor version updates will generally address most major vulnerabilities and those kinds of things. So you can keep up to date with this mostly with the updates. Just be aware that hackers and people that are looking to take advantage of your software are going to look for those older versions. So at some point you are going to want to consider upgrading just so you're on the latest, greatest version and you become less of a potential target. Number two, incompatibility. So if you find that your software is now no longer compatible with some of the newer devices and browsers, etc., certainly you can consider modernization. In this case, upgrading of your software package will often make it compatible with the latest and greatest devices and browsers and those things. So if you find yourself being forced to lag behind in the other technology you're using because the software doesn't work with the newer stuff, think about a possible upgrade. New features. So this is a big one. They come out with a bunch of new features, 10, 12 new features in the software in version 11. What you want to ask yourself is, are these features valuable to my business or to my users? Not just are they there, but are they valuable to me? Am I going to use these? If you're not going to use them, then there's no reason to take advantage of those features necessarily. It's not going to add value to you. And finally, sunset of support. So this is a good trigger to probably tell you that you need to consider upgrading. If they're telling you that this software is no longer going to be supported, version 9 is not going to be supported anymore, and we're on version 12, you should probably consider that upgrade because you want to be sure that you're on the latest and greatest, that you are continuing to get those patches and minor version updates, and that you have people that can help you to make sure that you and your software and your people are all working together as productively as possible. So some considerations when you're thinking about this. The number one consideration, and I would say possibly the only consideration for whether or not you should upgrade, should be, is the value of me upgrading greater than the cost that it's going to cost me to upgrade? And of course you've got the dollars, but when I talk about value, there's opportunity there. Are these new features going to allow me to do more? Am I going to be more productive? Are my staff going to be more productive? Am I going to get more done? Am I going to get more out of it? So that's the value, all of those things, and the other things I talked about as triggers. The cost, yes, there's the dollar cost. You want to consider that. There's also always learning curve and transition time and all of those things, and your productivity may go down temporarily before it goes back up. So is the cost of that worth it for the value that you're going to get? And there's a lot of different things you can put into the value or cost columns here, but I would say that's your number one and really only consideration about whether or not you should upgrade. Something I would encourage you to consider if you're talking upgrades would be what I call component upgrades. So this would be like, I've got my main software system, and maybe I'm not upgrading that just yet, but there's an option to upgrade the behind the scenes database platform or the hosting environment or something like that. If I can upgrade those, then I could accomplish a lot of the value that I'm talking about, performance and productivity and security and all those things, compatibility. So I can get a lot of value with a lot less of the cost. So in this case, I would encourage you to look, can I upgrade components without upgrading the entire software? So that's something else to think about. I would say now that you know, go out there, make smarter upgrades with your software, and remember, don't be afraid of change. Until next time, I'm JP Lessard. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or there's any way we can help.